I would say it is advancing at a fairly good pace at the moment. I think the mission of or the vision of the CTU in respect of the current work program is to really establish across the CARICOM states the framework and the premise for advancing our economies forward in this new digital era, and to ensure that governments make the transition to be able to offer their citizens seamless services utilizing ICT. So it's really about converting our respective administrations from paper-driven bureaucracies to a digitally enabled governments, and that really involves understanding the framework. And I think the CTU, in collaboration with the public sector organization within the CARICOM region, had established the premise back in January of this year, and we are now moving at layered steps of implementation. I think these forums that we have both serve as creating awareness, helping to establish the mission across the broadest framework of the respective interest group stakeholders in the society, but as well it acts as a forum by which ministers can share experiences, learn from other colleague ministers, and from the various work that has been done in every particular jurisdiction. And we use these as an opportunity to have comparison. We do league tables, and we are able to make a determination of what is best practice, and then we do a lot of adoption. So it is actually enhancing the learning curve and speeding up the process of implementation. Well, there are many things. I think St. Kitts Nevis has given a good testimony of its own progress. When we had the opening ceremony at Government House, I believe both Minister Byron and the acting Prime Minister gave a good account of where St. Kitts has been able to grasp the mission and to pursue its own agenda. I think the essence of what has come forward in my mind is the whole notion that there is a collaborative approach to it. I think the digital revolution is not only impacting governments, but it is impacting a number of our other stakeholders, including the service providers, to wit the major telecommunications companies. And I think their engagement at the forum this week has really indicated that they're looking towards the future. They're looking at the tremendous impact that technology is going to play, and both on their own operations and how they have to serve the public. So I think that to me is an important distinction in terms of what has happened, rather than it be a matter where we were exchanging fisticuffs. There's still a few issues that we have some significant differences. Needless to say, I don't think the operators are fully on board yet with the CARICOM's vision of having a single ICT space. And one of the implications of the single ICT space is that where there are singular networks, and both the major operators have singular networks in the Caribbean, and that is to say they have one contiguous network that runs across all the Caribbean states. We believe that we should be seeing the removal of such notions of having to roam across the Caribbean. We believe that you should be paying a single rate, and wherever you go in the Caribbean state, you are able to move seamlessly across that set of entities that are part of the single network. So yes, there are some differences, but I think by and large they've come forward to say that they are supportive of the overall efforts of the CTU. Well, it's a concern for the single ICT space, and the way CARICOM has done it. CARICOM has a few agencies that are responsible for carrying out its mandate. And the CARICOM Impacts is another department of the CARICOM Secretariat, another agency called Caribbean Impacts. And they are the agency that is responsible for coordinating and ensuring that as we move towards embracing ICT and putting more of our assets in cyberspace, that we take on board the necessary considerations for cybersecurity. So, in as much as the mandate goes to the Caribbean Impacts, the CTU as a fraternal organization through Caribbean Impacts, we are working collaboratively with them. Back in January, as I indicated, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union did invite a number of, well, in fact, all of the CARICOM heads of state to a meeting in Antigua, one-day meeting in Antigua, to rivet their attention and to attempt to get their buy-in into the need for us to begin to push strongly in this direction. And the reason why it was important to get the prime ministers and the other heads of state involved, because it's going to require a commitment of manpower, it's going to require ministerial leadership, and it's going to require budgets to be able to make this happen. So it was important that prime ministers knew of what was being attempted, and once they got their buy-in, they in turn will then facilitate providing those resources at a national level. I think Prime Minister Keith Mitchell from Grenada, who has the subject matter lead in CARICOM, addressed the meeting, and we did bring some of this to bear. Out of that meeting, the CTU had already circulated a self-evaluation template that allowed each country to be able to do its own assessment as to where it was on the development continuum for implementing the 21st century government. So there are a series of actions, both in terms of infrastructural challenges that we're going to have to overcome, where we need a certain type of infrastructure in place. We need legislation, there's a framework for legislation, and there is a framework for the type of services and how we automate in the first instance and digitize, and then to offer those services electronically to our citizens. And it's going to take a significant period of time. It will take, and I think as the Secretary General yesterday gave an indication that we expect that by the year 2022, with the consistent approach and the continued layered actions that we are implementing, by 2022, we should begin to see the fruits of those labors. Of course, some CARICOM states are a little further advanced than others, and I take pride in saying that purely from making e-services or government services available online within the OECS as well itself, Antigua perhaps is in the pole position with respect to automating a number of services, and would be in a position, I think, by the middle of next year to demonstrate, certainly by the time we have our next statutory meeting in Turks and Caicos in March of next year, Antigua should be able to demonstrate how much further advanced we have become and to share that experience with the rest of CARICOM. I think the conference was very well received by the sectoral groups here in St. Kitts, but I think from those persons who joined it from abroad, including the ministerial panel and the respective permanent secretaries, are very much now energized by the fact that there is a degree of consistency now to what we're doing, and so it's building on the previous experience that we would have had from prior meetings like this. I think the prior two meetings were in Guyana, in St. Vincent, and I think we are now seeing a head of steam that is now being built, and I think that gives more motivation to the persons involved.